few people sitting in Rashtrapati Bhavan have made decisions that have changed the course of history.
47 or 48 that had gone to meet Nehru, saying that, and because this was during the time when there was a talk of a plebiscite and everything, and they said that if a plebiscite happens and if the vote is go to either Pakistan or remain independent or whatever, that we as Ladakhis, particularly Ladakhi Buddhists, we want to stay with India no matter what.
One aspect of the counter narratives, what could have been, what decisions were imperfect and were they inevitable?
We forget quite how non-inevitable absolutely everything was. Everything was made by contingent decisions in a specific moment in reaction to other political actions. And I think that the best example of that is...
Independence Day is, every time we do the Independence Day Hafta podcast, various aspects of independence are discussed, whether it's the media angle, whether it is the struggles. But there's one aspect of the counter narratives, what could have been, what decisions were imperfect and were they inevitable? For example, I have heard many people discuss, in fact, I was moderating the book discussions on Josie's book launch at the IIC 2 days ago, where he's written this wonderful book called Birth of a Nation, where he talks about how all the kingdoms and the Raja Rajwadas were brought together. And even that was such an imperfect process. Other people I've heard say that maybe dividing states along linguistic lines wasn't such a great idea because then you had the Marathi versus Gujarati skirmish, Tamil, again, that was again in a Maharashtra thing. The non-local language speaker, had states been a mishmash of different languages, could have been different. Easy to say now, but you're a historian and you have studied the phase of partition quite closely. Tell us a few counter narratives or the imperfections and the inevitabilities.
Well, I think that the biggest one is just the fact that we have the countries that we do in South Asia rather than all sorts of different potential versions of the borders. I think that today, looking back sort of 8 decades on, we forget quite how non-inevitable absolutely everything was. Everything was made by contingent decisions in a specific moment in reaction to other political actions. And I think that the best example of that is if we just go back 6 months before independence, a year before independence, the plan in 1946, which both the Congress and the Muslim League very nearly adhered to, which would have created a kind of a superstructure that included both India and Pakistan and Bangladesh into essentially a single nation. The model was Great Britain. So just like Great Britain is made up of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, you would have had East Pakistan, West Pakistan, North India, South India, and the Deccan as 5 kind of states that would have been part of some greater federation. It's called the Cabinet Mission Plan. And very soon after it's posited, pretty much everyone agrees to it. And it's only at the very, very last minute that actually kind of Nehru and Gandhi decide, actually, we want to kind of demand that Peshawar is part of the Indian bloc of this federation rather than the Pakistani bloc. And there's some sort of minor disputes that they have that very rapidly leads to the whole thing falling apart. But it's incredible, I think. And every scholar that I know who's studied the kind of road to partition talks about this, how close it came to becoming a reality and how close we came to a very, very different looking South Asia. Now, this is just one of numerous such moments where the entire path of history could have changed. The entire sort of route of South Asian politics could sort of hinges on these small moments when a few people sitting in Rashtrapati Bhavan have made decisions that have changed the course of history.
Right. Let me come to Rinchen now, because one of the things also which is discussed is while we say, it's all the same, everyone's treated the same, etc., etc. The criticism of Article 370 has been this historical thorn on the side of various political parties. It has been used in various ways. It has been removed now. Your part of the world, Ladakh.
Yeah.
Article 371 in Northeast gives special rights. Manisha is part of the world. All hill states. Not everybody can go and buy. So while we say it's all the same for everybody, it is not.
It is not.
But there was no other way to get those territories to be part of India. So were those imperfections inevitable? Because it was either that or no India. And do you foresee in the future, Ladakh also being seen that why should they get special status and not UP, for example, or Madhya Pradesh?
No, with Ladakh, I think, especially with Article 370, and we really didn't have a say in the whole thing because Ladakh was under Dogra rule at the time. And so, even though there was a delegation of Ladakhi civil society members in, I think, 47 or 48 that had gone to meet Nehru, saying that, and because this was during the time when there was a talk of a plebiscite and everything, and they said that if a plebiscite happens and if the vote is go to either Pakistan or remain independent or whatever, that we as Ladakhis, particularly Ladakhi Buddhists, we want to stay with India no matter what, and if we don't, there was not really a threat, but like a sort of ultimatum that we might as well join up with Tibet, given our sort of cultural ties and relationships that we have. So so as far as Article 370 is concerned, we didn't really have a choice. And so since then, so initially until the 60s, there was sort of like a sort of reasonably comfortable arrangement that we had with Kashmir. But once, especially the Buddhist community in Ladakh started to feel undermined, marginalized in a Muslim majority sort of state and region, that's when the initial demands for what we now have union territory status. But back then you had like this NIFA. Arunachal Pradesh was like there's a NIFA arrangement where it was directly sort of governed by the central government. So that's when the first demands for union territory status started to emerge in the 60s, 70s, and just things and that never really died down. So eventually, when 2019 happened, when Article 370 was revoked, and then when the revocation had happened, and there was you remember there were scenes of dancing, people were celebrating in the streets of Leh, in the Leh Bazaar, and all of that. But the demand was never just for union territory status; it was for union territory status with a legislature, with some form of political representation,
Which didn't happen.
Which hasn't happened yet, but talks are ongoing right now with the government of India.
We have an Independence Day campaign. You can scan this QR code. It's Independence Day. Like Josie had said in the interview that I did with him, the creation of India was the single biggest achievement of journalism anywhere in the world at any time. Because most of the independence crusaders were either journalists or became journalists. And I thought, what better time to do a campaign, make journalism independent. That time journalists got India independence. Now citizens get journalism independent. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the show notes below.